So I'll start by introducing the brand. When I looked up the store's name definition, Solace, I couldn't help noticing how wonderfully fitting it was for the time when the store opened in the middle of the pandemic. Unless you can advise me otherwise, my interpretation of the meaning solace is comfort or consolation in a time of distress and sadness. Solace has been created and designed by the lovely Flora graduate student at London College of Fashion. Solace is a unisex, slow fashion, Glasgow-based brand sporting beautiful made-to-order garments. Thank you so much for coming on the call with me. I suppose I'd like to start by asking you what inspired to create your brand.
Yeah, so you were quite right with the definition of solace. It does mean like comfort in sorrow and kind of like living with, I don't know, a miserable time, I guess. So I started making clothes about like a year and a half ago, but it wasn't called Solace at that time. It was just called Flora Studio, and I was just making like joggy bottoms for a while, just because I'd lost my job just before the pandemic, and yeah, I just like needed something to do really to keep myself sane. Just before that as well, I had kind of like gone through something that I'd just not been very good, and then I was just kind of creating to like take my mind off of stuff. Take my mind off of that and take my mind off of the pandemic. And then Solace was born about 6 months ago. I don't even know what the date is today, but it was like April of this year. Or like just after that, I started to call it Solace. And yeah, it's just been kind of a like born out of a need to create, I guess, from that. And it's just developed with this, which has been really, really fun.
It is quite beautiful how like the toughest times do create some like the most beautiful things. It's always like it's really nice. Yeah. How do you cope with the demand for upkeep of current trends?
I think like through everything, I don't really follow trends as such. Like I'm more interested in creating clothes that are going to be around forever and like that are quite timeless. Like I'm not really interested in just making something that's going to be a trend and it will last for 2 months and then people will be on to the next thing. Like I think the clothes I make, or at least I hope that they are, quite kind of interesting and something that you maybe don't see all the time. So it's more people that are like interested in fashion but more interested in like the slow approach to it and like kind of investment pieces, you know what I mean? Because I try and like market myself to be so that people like our age can afford it, but at the same time obviously like sustainable clothing is going to be more expensive, but I would rather have an emphasis on that than an emphasis on like whatever the new trend is, just so that people will like get it and then throw it away like the next month, because we've all obviously been guilty of that before. So yeah, I don't really take much interest in it, but at the same time, I guess I do look at what people are wearing and like more just what my friends are interested in. And that always inspires me for the kind of like silhouettes, I feel like, of garments. But yeah, more just kind of making pieces that are going to be long lasting and pretty.
Exactly. I guess as well with making timeless pieces, like the amount of years it takes, like to like if this is going to last for years, you're probably going to spend the same amount like upkeeping with trends and like buying like nasty fast fashion over like a period of time as well. So you want something that's going to be beautiful for ages and then that like you'll like anyway, and by not conforming to trends you're like setting one yourself.
Exactly. And like all my clothes come with like I'll show you actually, it's like a little like kind of insert almost that I just put with all the packaging, and it's like if it breaks, like I get fixed for free type thing. So even if you were to like, I don't know, change your body shape drastically and like the clothes didn't fit you anymore, I would offer like a tailoring service for that. Or like obviously over time things wear and tear, so it's important for me to kind of provide that service for people, that it's not just going to be a fad trend.
Exactly. They're guaranteed that they'll be like have this item for this amount of time. Yeah, exactly. Consumption of fashion is immensely high during the Christmas season. I'm guessing this is the brand's first Christmas. Have you noticed the difference in your orders?
Yeah, I definitely have. I think like although I have been quite consistent, thankfully, with orders like the last few months, it's definitely picked up quite a lot. Like a few weeks ago, I guess people like preparing for Christmas presents. Been a lot of like boys buying stuff for their girlfriends and things like that. I'd say the most popular thing that I make is a top called the Carla top, and it's sold on Lunch Concept Store, which is like a platform for like independent, slow fashion designers. So that's been like the most popular thing. I definitely have noticed a wee bit of a difference, and especially because my brand is like, it's just me that makes everything, so it's like it's made to order, so it's maybe like a 2-week wait roughly. I've had a lot of people messaging me like in November asking like if things will be definitely made in time for Christmas. So yeah, it's pretty like steady now. I've not had like so many new orders like the last couple of days, but it's all been like kind of a backlog of stuff that I've got to make in preparation for Christmas.
Yeah, it's important to set like boundaries on how much you can handle as well, because it's just you. So like you kind of, it must be like quite difficult to be like, stop, I can't give everyone the best Christmas ever by giving you one of my lovely garments.
It's hard as well because I feel like I'm so bad at just last minute getting something for people. But obviously if you're wanting something that's like literally made to measure and like made to order, then it's not going to be able to be like dispatched. But people have been really good. So
that's really good. Whereabouts do you source your fabrics?
Mostly online. I found like quite a few websites that are more about like offcuts of fabrics from like maybe like fashion houses or whatever, like end of the roll stuff. So I try and do that a lot. The only problem with that is that like obviously that's more just like one of one, so like it's more difficult for me to make every single garment the same if that's the way I'm sourcing the fabric. But in a way I quite like that. It's just completely up to like the consumer, but I quite like knowing that every single piece is like similar but not maybe the exact same fabric.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'd like that as well.
I would rather like a bit more sustainable than just buy something like cheaply or off a website that I don't really know where it's like come from, just so that everything will look the exact same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More of a sense as well. It's like more like art that you're creating, which will probably make you feel a lot prouder of it, because it's going to be one of a kind pieces, which is nicer, I think, than just churning out all of the same garments to everyone and then like seeing everyone wear the same top. It's like nice like difference.
Yeah. Well, definitely.
What happens to your waist? Sorry, carry on.
No, it's fine. I was just gonna say that when I was in London, I had also like developed like not relationships, but like had companies that would come into our uni and like kind of give us fabrics or like make themselves known basically. And there's one that I still use in London, which sources things from London. It's like kind of all factories made in London, and a lot of their fabrics are like organic and things like that. So I try and get my fabric from them as much as possible as well.
It's really good. What happens to your waist?
So all the things I sell on Lunch, with the Carla material, it's like a cheesecloth material. So I sell like sets of that. So any time that I'm making a set on Lunch, obviously like there'll be like, I try and cut my fabric so that there isn't any waste, but if there is any waste, like undoubtedly there will be. I always try and make like scrunchies or like little bags out of them that I include for free in the order. It's just like I think it's a nice touch for people to know that they've got something like a scrunchie that's actually like not just like a whole new thing, like it's just been created from the waste from that set that is personal to them. And also like in my studio room I've got like lots of little bags just full of bits of fabric that are maybe too small to make other things out of, but I'm like keeping them so that hopefully I'll be able to make other garments out of them that are like weatherproofed by them. So like for example, I'm thinking of making like a jacket or like a wee body warmer that instead of it being stuffed with like down or like stuffing, I guess, in general. I want to kind of insulate it with the offcuts of fabric that I've been collecting.
That sounds really exciting. I think I'm excited for when I see it. Which brings me for my last question, which is, as the brand grows, what are your plans for the future?
Yeah, I don't really have like specific like goals or plans necessarily. I just kind of like take it as it comes, and it's touch wood worked out quite good so far. So, but I've got things I would like to start doing in the future. Like I'd like to start doing like little workshops with people, maybe like in order to help like other people learn how to sew. And I would like to maybe start doing like some little pop-ups events, kind of bringing together like a couple of brands in Glasgow, or like a lot of my friends do creative things like sell jewellery or like paint or like whatever. So even people that DJ, I'd like to have like a little night or like a little weekend pop-up shop sometime, hopefully like in March, that kind of amalgamates all those people and have like little workshops during the day and things like that. Just I think that's like my more short-term goal for just now, kind of working towards doing something like that.
That sounds so nice. It would be so nice to have like all of the little independent brands in a space that everyone's really relaxed in, and there's like music playing, so like you can all talk to each other, and then at the end of it have a little like dance. That sounds really good, and then everyone gets their stuff like noticed and sold as well. So I think there's definitely a big space for that in Glasgow, because it is so small that we all know who each other are, and like then like to be able to just like do that and then like see everyone there, that would be like, I think it would go really well.
Yeah, I hope so. I think that's like a long-term thing. I'd maybe like to work towards having like my own shop, like a permanent shop, and stock like Glasgow-based people or like other just like slow fashion brands, because I think there is like a real market for it, and there is obviously loads of people that do make things like that, and it would be really good to just encourage that way of like working just forever, really, I think.
Exactly. And the more that you like with the workshops and then with the shop itself, it's just like more people are aware of it, and more people see that like slow fashion is not like as fashionable, then the more that it's gonna like and be imprinted in people, and that'll be really good. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry about the last one.
Don't worry.
So thank you so much for having this little chat with me on behalf of Sustainability Fashion Employability Skills Project. It's quite a mouthful. We always just call it SFES. I can imagine that you're super busy at the moment, but have a lovely Christmas.
Thank you too.
And I'll let you get back to work.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Have
a good day.
You too.